Hello, my marketing and entrepreneur friends. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Let's Talk Marketing podcast, where I, your host, Katya Allison, get to explore the latest trends, techniques, and strategies in the world of marketing. Now, in this episode, we're diving deep into the world of influencer marketing with a true industry expert, Denise Vitola, the VP of Brand Strategy at Linkia. With over 2 decades of experience underneath her belt, she's made significant strides in brands like Bayer Consumer Health, revolutionizing how to best approach influencer strategies. So it's going to be a juicy one, my friends. Together, we explore the evolution and the impact of influencer marketing in today's world, the crucial role authenticity plays in successful campaigns. If you've listened to any part of the podcast, this is not going to be a surprise that we're talking about authenticity. But we also are focused on how it really resonates profoundly in today's savvy consumer, that authenticity. Now, Denise also takes the time to share her wealth of knowledge in navigating the nuances of social media content consumption and really crafting strategies that not only captivate, but also deliver measurable results. So stay tuned as we uncover actionable insights on measuring the success of influencer campaigns, diving into key metrics for all you data junkies. Whether you're just starting out in influencer marketing or in marketing, or you're looking to refine your current strategies, this episode promises valuable insights to elevate your approach. So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, my friends, and let's dive into it. Let's talk marketing. Denise, welcome to the Let's Talk Marketing podcast. Really excited to have you on here so that we can dive into brand strategy.
I am excited to be here. So thank you for the invite, and I can't wait to jump in.
Of course. Now, before we do dive into all things kind of brand strategy, I'll try to keep ourselves focused. I'd love for you to just kind of introduce yourself to our listeners. And I've got a set of questions to start you off with. I'd love to know what your first marketing role was, or one that you would like define as like a marketing role. And I ask it in that way because not everybody defines their first marketing role as like a specific, oh, everyone would say it was marketing. So I'm always really curious to hear, what would you define as your first marketing role?
Well, you kind of get thrown out to the wolves because you walk out of college and you have this idea of what you're going to do. Now, going into college, I thought I was going to be a professional athlete, but if you talk to my father, he told me early on, stop picking schools based on where you're going to play basketball and start picking schools on where you're going to get the best education. So tough love, right? Well, nonetheless, I walked out of school thinking about sports. So I started in sports marketing because I said, if I can't be on the field, then I can be on the sidelines, really helping brands integrate themselves into, using sports as sort of the vehicle to communicate to consumers. And that's exactly what I did, working with huge brands like MasterCard and Ford and Chevy, Bank of America on programs, on their sports sponsorship programs, and how they wrapped it with a marketing strategy so that it would deliver messages that they were trying to deliver to their customers.
That's amazing. What a great place to start, or a great area to start with sports marketing. I think it's, and I love that you were able to bridge it to like what you love to do, right? I think like that's a little bit of the best of both worlds. Now, that's where you started. Where are you at now? What do you currently do?
So, wow, I've really been on a journey, a very long one and a really exciting one. And starting in sports marketing was so exciting. But then I went over what I call like on the cheerleading squad and went into beauty for a little while and said, oh gosh, what did I do? I love the beauty category, but not to be working in it for me. And you touched on something which I do want to emphasize is if you work in an industry you love and you do something that you love, it doesn't feel like a job anymore. So, doing the sports stuff was great. Working in health and wellness has been something I've always done and I've really loved because it's part of my DNA. So today I'm at an influencer marketing agency, which really leans into what I'm talking about. I've worked in integrated marketing for a really long time. My last job was at a Fortune 100 company leading social influencer brand integration. And I said, I know influencer marketing is at the forefront of innovation and how brand marketers need to
Yeah.
market to their customers. So I was in sports, marketing to customers through sports as a vehicle. We need to use influencer as the vehicle to reach your customers today. I'm at the best agency, Linkia, and we're delivering those kinds of programs for all of our clients.
That's amazing. And you're right. You do find the work that you love to do, and it's almost like you can be pops into almost any industry, and really love it. I mean, that's exactly the passion I feel for marketing. I'm obsessed with it. I always say it's my hobby and my job, and I got really lucky that way for
I agree with
sure.
you.
Now, as amazing as I'm sure that it is, I would love to hear kind of like the good and the bad of it, right? So, in your current role, what do you love about what you do? But let's also look at if there was anything you would pluck out of it, what would you pluck out
Yeah.
of it? So, let's start with the good. What do you love about what you
The
do?
good is how exciting it is, how much you could do with influencers. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want to do an influencer
Mhm.
marketing program because I want to talk about my new pair of pants, or I want to talk about my new recipe that we're delivering through our QSR restaurant." And we can do that, and but that's just scratching the surface. So influencer marketing really is end to end across the marketing funnel, end to end across the consumer journey, and you can plug it in any of those places. You can use it for retail marketing, you can use it for CRM, you could use it to fill your social media feed, you could use it in paid media, you can use it in programmatic, you can use it on your PDP pages. Like, the opportunities are
Yeah.
endless, and now the opportunities with creators to start creating ads, and you're not even tapping them for their channel, leveraging on social media. So for me, if you're an emerging brand or a challenger brand and you don't have that big of a budget, let's start with influencer, and it's going to give you all those marketing elements that you need, and you're going to save money. So that's what I love about it. The opportunities are endless, and it leads into what I don't love about it is the reason for lack of education. So people don't know that they could use influencer
Okay.
marketing that way. And I find I'm always surprised because I'll speak at a conference and I'll step off the stage and people come up and be like, I love that. How do you find influencers? And I'm like, what? Are we
Yes.
really there? Like, I've been doing influencer for 20 years and I'm like, are we really there? But we are, and that's okay. I love educating people. I sit down and I have the conversation. Okay, let's take this to 101. This is how we find influencers. But the thing I'd like to pluck out is the misinformation about analytics. So a lot of folks will also say to
Mm.
me, "Oh, I don't really do influencer because I can't really measure it." And I'm like, I scoff at it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Look at influencer as a paid media strategy. You're paying these influencers, you're paying for their content. Let's use it throughout the paid funnel. You could do a brand lift study, you could do a sales lift study, you can, measure MMA, MTA, and all of those things so that you can then align it to what are you getting back on your display ad? What's the ROI? You can put these things side to side and take a look at what's performing best for you.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head. Most people don't know how to analyze the
Mm-hmm.
performance of influencer marketing, and therefore if I can't track it, then
Right.
if I can't track it, I can't invest in it. And I can't invest what you say that I should invest in order to do it right. But I also think like it runs into the same kind of challenges that content marketing, started with as well when, before there was a time that content wasn't
Mm-hmm.
king, right? Or queen or whatever royalty it was. Like you had to kind of bridge that gap as well too, but you need to be able to drive people to recognize your brand, and there's an awareness play for it, but I think that you're right, like you can move it down the
Absolutely.
funnel if you just take it out of like the semantic box of
Mhm.
influencer. Like we it almost needs like a PR twist to it so that people can embrace it in a way that they use it and view it as a pivotal part into their strategy. I'm also a big believer that any brand can
I
use
know.
influencers, and I think there's sometimes this mindset that, oh, I have to be a beauty brand to do that. I have to be, D2C or B2C in order to like really make it work. I almost feel like it's a quantity play. Maybe you don't need as many to really move the needle if you are in B2B. So I love the
Platforms. So it's
misinformation
not
as
really like
the
how
thing
many you
underlying.
need, it's are you on the right platforms? So LinkedIn is exploding.
Mm-hmm.
They're investing tons of money into, how they serve up their thought leaders and their influencers on the platform. They're investing money in how brands are showing up and how brands can promote themselves. Henceforth, there's an opportunity for more thought leadership on the platform, more partnerships with those thought leaders, brands, and delivering messages on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has more affluent audience. So when you're thinking about the things you want to
Yep.
talk about on there, the opportunities are really huge.
Yeah. Talk about decision makers wanting to be in front of
Oh,
decision
yeah,
makers, especially from a B2B
that's
perspective, right?
true.
Now, I think especially in the industry that you're in, you've got to be in this place where you have to have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on from a trends perspective. So I'm curious if you leverage any social media networks for kind of inspiration, education, or maybe entertainment. And if so, which social networks do you go to for either all or some or one of
Yeah, I
those?
would say for inspiration, I am looking at other brands. So I'm probably one of the only
Mhm.
people that follow brands. Like, no one's following brands unless you're really doing some human stuff and not acting like a brand. But I like to follow brands. I like to look at, ad week, ad age, see what they're highlighting. But I also look at the information and e-marketer. What are the what's the data behind some of the trends that are happening? So I say it all the time because people are like, how do you know that? And it's like, you really have to be a sponge and you have to immerse yourself into info. I have
Yeah.
podcasts on while I'm working and I'm listening to that while I'm in the shower. Just be careful your phone doesn't fall in the water, but I'm listening to audio books while I'm in the shower.
Yeah.
Like Atomic Habits or Think Again with Adam Grant. Like, I'm
Yeah.
absorbing all of this stuff and how does it apply? And I also love to listen to things that I know I'm going to disagree with. So somebody that has like a radical
Mm,
point of view in one way that I know I don't believe in, because I think, to the point of Adam Grant and Think Again, it's like, is there something I'm missing? How do I reevaluate where my head is
yes.
at so I can put together the best point of view? So it's a constant thing. Like, Brene Brown has a great podcast that I listen to. She has three of them, I think. Entertainment wise, there's this podcast that I follow. One of my beloved influencer friends, Gratitudeology. She interviews such spiritual and emotional people that have been on this journey of gratitude. Again, I'm drawing inspiration from there and really listening to
Yeah.
people like Tim Story about the miracle mentality and how does that mentality maybe apply to marketing, right? So I'm listening to all of these things, drinking them in, and at every moment during my day, and it just is endless. I'm driving to the gym, one of the things is on and I flip back and forth between different things. I love Instagram, but you may not get inspiration from there. You get ideas though, right? You're going to get ideas. What are the trends?
Yeah.
Who's highlighting this? Today I made a post about the Met Gala because I'm like, oh yeah, like everybody's doing all this cool stuff. I want to do something on Instagram too about the Met Gala. But the list could go on and I could babble about what I'm listening to and how to absorb that. But I really tell everyone it takes a lot of time and you really have to be a sponge.
Well, and I think that you are a consumer of content in all of the formats that you can get to it. So it to me it sounds like there is no line of when you start and when you
Correct.
stop. It's just a constant on part, which is interesting. I think for some people want to be able to have a bit of the quiet, but like we're in an industry that just it changes
Yeah.
all the time. It changes all the time. You add digital to it, like, and you still have a little bit of old school that you have to bring to it as well, too. So, like, how do you merge those two? I am totally, I consume content in very much so the same way. And I love to go to social for an inspiration to, I also follow brands as well, too. I follow brands. I also sign up for all the newsletters as
Yes.
well too, on top of looking at all of those things, right? Because it's sometimes it's a layout or the way they've positioned something or a call to action that you can leverage for something you're doing for your own brand or for another brand, right? And I think especially in the influencer space, you got to know
Oh
what's
yeah.
going on all, kind of all of the channels, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another tip too is if you hear of a cool CMO or a former CMO that you like, or somebody in marketing or the digital space, follow them on LinkedIn because a lot of them
Yeah.
go to conferences. They summarize the conferences. It's great intellect that they bring back to you. And a lot of them are saying like, provocative, smart things like Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, he's really dropping the mic
Yeah.
on a lot of moments, but he's also talking about kindness in the workplace and culture and things like that. And, you'll pick up a seed of something here and there.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to call back to is you either listening or consuming content even though you don't necessarily agree
Yes.
with like a particular opinion. I think that's so forward thinking of you, of like, what could I have possibly missed? And there's something to be said about putting your shoes, don't put anything with your shoes. I was going to say put your feet in other person's shoes, which that doesn't even make any sense either. But what I'm trying to say is putting yourself in the other person's
Yes.
position to
Yes.
even try to
Yes.
understand, like, how did they even
Right.
come to this? I think in general, we probably don't do enough of that kind of, well, one in the
Yeah.
world, like, let me entertain this. Let's have a conversation. We don't have to discuss so that you agree with me. We can literally leave amicably and still have totally opposite perspectives, but at least I'm walking away
Mhm.
with a little better understanding of what you're
Yeah.
saying. Like, I think that's huge. And I do think it plays into
I
marketing
do
as well
too.
too, because it's never only about you and your brand. You have to understand your audience, and you have to understand that everybody listens through different filters.
100%.
That's
Yeah. Thanks for
amazing.
emphasizing that.
Yeah, well, now we're ready to dive into brand
We
strategy.
are ready.
I could probably have a whole podcast. We can talk about Brene Brown
I
and the
know.
whole nine
I
yards.
love
Mel
her.
Robbins, Adam Grant. I love
Yeah.
all of them. Obsessed. Uh, so I would love to start off with just kind of diving into a little bit of like how we can elevate brand strategy. I'd love for you to walk us through your approach in developing a kind of comprehensive brand
Yeah.
strategy. What what does that look like, especially in the landscape of digital of today and so many things
Yeah.
changing?
Yeah, you set me up so nicely for these questions that I just love it. It's almost as if I've
You're
paid you
welcome.
ahead of time to get me thinking in the right direction. But really, you have because one of the I'll start out by saying though that one of the frustrations that I have is the marketing industry is moving too slow, and it's almost
Hmm.
heads down in old textbooks and wanting to follow like the sort
Hmm.
of bible of brand equity. And okay, my brand colors are these three colors, therefore everything is going to be those three colors. And when you go to my Instagram channel, it's going to look like I threw up those three colors, and you're going to walk away and I'm just going to beat you to death until you can repeat my brand equity to me. But that's not really where we're
Yeah.
at anymore. And I think as an industry, we're in trouble because we need to shake all of that traditional stuff off, like it's armor, shake it off and start to listen to
Yeah.
the consumer. And that's what I mean by you set me up, because you said in this new world, in this digital place that we're in.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's the consumer is now in the driver's seat and we're a passenger. So you need to like
Yeah.
follow their lead. Let's listen. They're telling us like if you are on social media, you I can tell you what a consumer thinks about any brand at any given moment in time. You hashtag the brand, you will see. If you listen enough, you create those word clouds, you do the marketing homework, and you know. And I think that everyone that is listening to this will say, I'm doing that, Denise. I'm not traditional. But are you going to change
Yeah.
your equity? Are you going to pivot on who you are? Are you going to change your messages depending on where you're showing up based on what the consumer told you? That's the hard part, is listening to it and then making those changes, because I've sat in a lot of meetings where I'm
Yeah.
saying, because I'm the digital person, remember, so I'm saying, okay, this is what we heard from the consumer, this is what they're looking for, they like the product for X, or they think it's working for them in this fashion, show up here. Well, not really, we can't do that. That's not really on strategy. Well, what strategy? Is it is your
Yeah,
customer who's going to buy your product is telling you how they want to digest it, and you're worried about your strategy. So I think that for me is where we need to up level and begin developing our strategies based on what we hear. I worked with a company and I just love the way they do this. They don't even have strategy. I mean, they're strategic people, very smart people, some of the smartest people I've worked with. But what they do is put content out into the world. Okay. And
yeah,
then they'll listen to what people say to the content and how they react to it. Now, if something sparks, they will jump on it and build a strategy around that and a big campaign and a big idea.
interesting.
Yeah, so it's happening in reverse, and they've had huge success with some really interesting brands. And I love that style, but not everybody can adapt to it.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. Like that, I have just worked with a lot of different executives who also feel that way, right? Like it is very much so. These are my colors. This is my brand identity. So there's something that I want to go back to in regards to that, but also in regards to the example that you just specifically said. I think what makes people so uncomfortable about that is that there's going to be a lot of failures, or it sounds like, or it feels like there's going to be a lot of failures if I'm like just throwing out content and then waiting to see what
But it's a lot
resonates,
of it.
right? And to your point, that is
Yeah,
the
that is.
strategy. It's also, you're not talking about, you're not selling spaghettis and meatballs and talking about shrimp, right? Like it's not, they're both food, but they're not like related. So I think that's where you say like they do have that is their
Yeah,
strategy. Let's see what our audience is really like, what is
yeah.
keeping them up at night. They will tell us and then we will
Yeah,
answer,
yeah, yeah.
right?
It stays within the framework. So if it is spaghetti and
Yeah.
meatballs, we're always talking about things related to spaghetti and meatballs. Like, do you twist it? Do you use a
Yeah.
spoon? Sauce, no sauce, butter? All of the things are related to spaghetti and meatballs, but they're all different notions and ideas behind that. And then
Yes.
the consumer's going to say, like, let's just say, like, we find out that people love butter and ketchup. So we run with it. We run with it. But like, imagine as a brand manager, like, oh my God, that's sacrilege. Like, I'm Barilla Pasta. We're all about the
Yeah.
sauce. Like, how could you even tell me it's butter? So that's what I mean. It's like you stay in your lane, but there's so many ways to talk about something in your lane.
How would you combat that with an executive who is very hyper focused on, keeping up with the Joneses, right? Meaning like my competitors are doing all of this, so this is what I must do. Like how can I take the pulse of what my audience really wants to get, but also not
Mhm.
lose, I don't know, share of voice with competition? Or maybe there's a point where that all kind of levels out, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that.
Again, I'm glad you asked me this question. I think we were made for these interviewing process. I take you on the road with me, but I say to that, don't worry about your competitors. No one care. Like, okay, so let's say I happen to stumble on one a day and that's a brand I follow, a brand I listen to. Okay. That doesn't mean now I'm going to follow all of the vitamin category. No, I'm following
Yeah.
fitness people. I'm following wellness brands. I'm looking at puppies. I'm looking at babies. I'm looking at fashion. I'm looking at beauty. Your share of voice is clouded and crowded with other things that are going on. So your competition isn't really who you think they are. You think that your competition is going to be your direct competitor, but when it comes to social and influencer at shelf, I get it. You're sitting right next to
Yeah.
your competition and you have
Yeah.
something else that you need to do there. But in the digital space and as far as influencer, digital, social, all of those things go, they're not distracted by other brands. They're distracted by other things that entertain them.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't have said that better. Now I want to take you with me in all of the conversations I have with executive leaders. Well, because I do think that's a tough nut to crack. And, to go back to the thing that I wanted to put a pin on from like the brand identity, right? Like, oh, these are my three colors. I've got to go on here. This is the balance that I think maybe it's cognitive dissonance, right? Like, well, if I don't follow this, then they're not going to have any sort of brand recognition. And what's the balance of that, right? I think it's more of like the consistency of what you're putting out there,
Mhm.
maybe. And it shouldn't look again like the spaghetti and meatballs and the
Mhm.
shrimp, right? If your colors are this, you're not going to all of a sudden be like highlighter
Right.
yellow, right? Or it's the goal isn't for it to be so far away that people don't know that
Right.
it's you. But I mean, goodness,
Yeah.
it's, people still recognize me even if I get a
Yeah.
haircut.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
definitely agree with using brand colors. I don't want anyone to show up on social media or asking an influencer when you're shooting a video, if, let's say your brand color is blue, that
yeah.
everything is vomited blue. Maybe you want to
Yeah.
if they're using a cup, you bring in the blue. Like it just needs to have a natural place in the story versus us forcing it on everything. So, and like you get like the
Mm,
Allegra commercial that's on now. It's like she's singing and she's walking, and um, gosh, I don't mean to insult them, but like the purple boxes around her. She's wearing pink and purple. Like it's just
yeah.
all of it. And it's like I would appreciate a little more naturalness in it, and showing up
Yes.
like something I'm seeing on YouTube or TikTok, because that's what most people are digesting. So they're going heavy on this commercial, and I'm curious who their demographic is, because it's, on TV, first of all, and and where I see it the most. And it's just so heavy commercialized that I don't think it would resonate with millennials, never mind Gen Z.
Yeah. Well, and what you bring up is actually a really good segue into effective influencer marketing, right? You just touched on like, well, I want to see something a little bit more natural. It shouldn't be something forced. And I would say even like a successful influencer campaign is one that's just that, right? That is kind of hitting the right tone and voice that you need from your brand perspective, but is doing it in a, dare I say, authentic
Yeah.
way. But like, I think that's really where it leans into it from an influencer
Yeah, it
space.
does. I mean, before the job I have now, I was on the brand side for 5 years. And it was
Yeah.
funny because the influencer agency that I worked with, I actually work at now. That's why I know they're the best. But I used to say to them, and they were shocked that I was saying this. They're like, "Are you being serious?" Because most of their clients weren't saying this, and it was,
Yeah.
tell the influencers to stop being so commercial. Like they'd get a
Mm,
brief and they'd literally be like, this product does blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't want you to start out with that. I want you to start, let's say it was you know, a snack, like a granola bar. I want you to
yeah.
talk to me about like, hey, I'm constantly on the go. My life is crazy busy. Things get hectic and out of hand, and I just it's very hard for me to eat a balanced diet. So tell me that story. Tell me a story first, and then
Yes.
bring out the product and say, with all that said, I carry these around in my purse. They taste good. They're nutritious. They have whatever value you're trying, like whatever the messages are now, bring in the messages. Or
Yeah.
do a travel vlog where you're going through the airport and you do a funny thing. The lines are too long over there. Oh my God, they're out of food over there. So now it's like, but guess what? I always have my snacks with me, and I brought the
Yeah.
granolas. It's like that's the story people want to see. They don't want the in their face like the granola bars and they're it's tell
Yeah.
me that story. Make me understand where I
Yeah.
use this product in my life.
Exactly. I was just going to say, I want to be able to see myself in
Yeah.
that situation because we've all been at the airport and either you're in that terminal that doesn't have the food, right? And you're starving and you don't have enough time to get back. Like that is much more compelling, which I mean, I feel like in this day and age and the world of digital that we're in, influencers are the storytellers of your
Yeah.
brands and you have to be able to find the right influencers to hit that mark. What are some kind of like high level ways that we can ensure that they do hit the
Yeah.
mark for us as a brand?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to work. There are so many bad actors out there because it's an open field, right? It's like I can raise my hand and say, "Guess
Yeah.
what? Hey guys, I'm an influencer. Just give me your product and I'll just do some things." But there's an art and a science to it. And the influencers that
Yeah.
are doing really well are very sophisticated and they understand how to work with brands. Like there are some influencers that'll step
Yeah.
in and then they get a brief and they're like, "What? You have to tell me what to do? Wait, you want to review my content? Wait, my content has to go through legal?" Like th- they don't get it.
Mm,
So it's like you have to work with people that understand the process and who are expert at their craft, right? So
yeah.
and the way to do that is, and dare I say, and it's not a shameless plug that I'm saying right now, like, oh, go work with Linkia, but you really do need the right partners. You really need people
Yes.
that have those databases of influencers that they have worked with. But I also say to people, don't work with influencer agencies that have closed networks because you're going to get the same all the time. And you really want to
Yes.
work with somebody that has partnerships with all of the platforms so they're grabbing influencers from different areas because some people are peaking later and they're rising stars that might not be
Mhm.
on your network, and they might be the most perfect person for said brand. So a lot of people, like when I left the company I was at, and I was like, I'm going all in influencer. It's the way of the world and all of the things. And I went out preaching and proselytizing and all of that. Everyone's like, well, I've had my own agency in the past, and they said, well, why don't you just go back to start, revigorating your own agency? And I said, the problem is influencer marketing. There's so much technology in
Yeah.
establishing the influencers and the research and all of the bits that you need to do, and that technology is very expensive to buy into, and it's
Yeah.
very expensive to build. And if I was to do it on my own, I couldn't afford to do it. And then the second part is, when you're working with influencers that aren't not some of them aren't sophisticated but they're still good, it's like herding
Yeah.
blind and deaf cats that only walk backwards. And it's just like it's just impossible. It's
Very
impossible
specific.
to do because it's like, oh my God, like, but you need that infrastructure in place.
Absolutely. You need to find the efficiencies where you can, because it's not that it's the hardest thing to do, but there are a lot of moving pieces, right? There are a lot of moving pieces, and there are a lot with just one to one. Like if I'm one to two,
Right.
1 to 5, like that's one thing. But when you're really talking about multiple campaigns, or and nothing ever hits on the exact day that you want it to hit, and maybe it's consistent, like a drip effect of like the content that you want to spread out for one particular influencer, just because that's the style that resonates for them. And that's where you're going to get your most bang for your buck,
Yes.
which is another really good segue. The bang for your buck, the metrics, the how do we measure the success of influencer marketing? You already teased it out, more so at the beginning of like taking a look at it as something more programmatic.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit more about how I can truly measure success. Am I looking at like the success of the content that it's performing? Am I looking at it impressions, clicks? What's
Yeah.
your
Well,
advice?
my advice is at the beginning, understand what you're trying to achieve. So take a look at the marketing
Mhm.
funnel. Is it an awareness play, or are you driving people to purchase? So what are you
Yeah.
actually trying to achieve with this campaign that you're executing? And then from there, you can establish those key metrics on, okay,
Yeah.
so we were going for brand awareness. Okay, well, let's attach a brand lift study to that program. If it's we're trying to draw sales, then we could obviously do a sales lift study. But I also say let's do click to cart so that we can understand,
Mm.
the sort of purchase intent of people. Let's look at click throughs. Let's look at views. Let's look at engagement rate. There are a lot of metrics that will align, and also The
Yeah.
company that I was at when I was on the brand side, I worked very hard with our analytics team internally to make sure that our content, when we were putting paid behind any influencer content, that we were also giving it that Nielsen rating, so that MTA tag, so
Yeah.
that we would understand how to measure that against all the other MTA measurements we were getting. So you can get ROAS, you can get all of those things, and you're speaking marketing language to those people that only
Yeah.
understand how to measure those kinds of things. So yeah, measurement doesn't scare me. I could deliver metrics till the cows come home. I just need to know where you're trying to fall in that marketing funnel. What are you trying to achieve? Because we're not going to achieve all the things unless you're spending a ton of money.
Well, yeah, and I think that everyone's really focused, and this is across the board on like bottom of
Mhm.
funnel, right? Everything that you do should give me of funnel results, but there's a funnel for a
Right.
reason. I do want you to define MTA tags because I don't know what that
Yeah.
is, which I love learning something new. But what exactly is that?
So it puts a metric. So it's like, Nielsen or like MMM, the mixed marketing metric.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's what it is. So, like, at different companies, like the company I was at, it was called MTA,
Okay.
but it's really the MMM metric, like the mixed marketing modeling,
Okay.
where I don't even know how many companies are working with Nielsen anymore. I don't make the sausage; I eat it. But so I mean, but I know the company I was at was working with Nielsen, but it could be because they
Yeah.
were maybe behind times. But yeah, so it puts that tag on it, so you'll understand how it's
Okay.
measuring in the whole marketing mix.
Got it. That makes sense. I think it to me, it also sounds a bit like domain authority. I just had this conversation with someone the other day that they're like, well, domain authority is only for this. What's really important is this number for my software. And I'm like, okay, well, I think it depends on the software you're in, what like that authority number is. So that sounds about kind of the same as well too, but super
Yeah, well, I
interesting.
think too, one of
Um,
the things is sit down and say, okay, it's brand awareness, it's this, it's that. What is the metric you need? And I can get
yes.
it for you. I'm 90% sure that if you need a particular metric to take back to your leadership team to prove this tactic, then I can get it
Yeah.
for you. It's very easy to
Oh.
measure influencer. It when people say to me that they can, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, it's like washing laundry.
I will say I think that a part of it is well, here's my armchair theory. One of it is that people think the influencer is
Yeah,
new, and
yeah,
it's not,
yeah. I 20
right?
years ago,
So there are a lot of people that are coming into it and they don't necessarily know how to measure beyond like these bottom
organic.
of funnel. If I
Yeah,
can't show this particular number, then I can't prove the success, right? Where there it is, I'm a big believer in this. There is no one silver bullet. It took a lot of touches to get that bottom of funnel. And so we have to figure out one, how many
hmm,
touches, the other is like how many influencer touches did it take to that, right? Like all of this information feeds into that bottom of the funnel. And most companies in my experience don't have like the right infrastructure created so that they can even track things outside of
yeah,
influencer
yeah.
marketing to be able to even hone in on anything outside of that to really get the whole return on
Yeah,
investment.
you're very
That's
accurate.
that's my armchair
Well, I
theory
think
on
you're
it.
right, and I think that that's what needs to happen. Companies need to hire in consultants that can come in and look at that whole process and help them figure
Yeah.
out what is really the most valuable ways to measure the tactics that they're executing.
Yeah, so true. I could really talk to you for 37 more minutes. I did not realize that we went so long. I told you at the top of it too. I'm like, I will just keep talking. I've got one final question for you if you have enough time for that. If you knew then what you know now, what is the marketing or non marketing advice that you give to yourself?
Yeah, I give myself advice a lot of times, but I think it's because you have to rethink, right? I think you need to rethink things,
Yes.
I'd say take those calculated risks. Don't be afraid. I
Hmm.
think a lot of people operate from the space of, I don't want to be fired. I don't want to fail. But
Yeah.
failure is success. And you will learn your
Yeah.
biggest life lessons from failures. And I don't believe them to be failures, because in this world that we live in, if you fail fast enough, you can turn it into a success. And I'd love to see more agile people. I'd love to see more risk takers. Now, I say calculated risk because I don't want people going
Yeah.
crazy. Be thoughtful and be strategic, but really be nimble, be ready for change, and be open to it. If you get to an intersection that is an unexpected path, then make the right or left and be happy with your decision, and commit to it and
Yeah.
follow through on it. So for me, I've always been a bit of a risk taker, but I would say I would still remind myself to do those things.
Listen, I'm not a risk taker, but I love the fail forward, fail
Yeah,
fast, because you're always picking up a little bit of learning along the way, and like it never lasts as long as you think that it
yeah.
does. And you are always growing from it. So I love, love, love that advice that you give to yourself. I appreciate you coming on here, sharing all of your knowledge, allowing me to steal so much of your time. This has been an amazing
Well,
conversation.
thank you. I enjoyed it, and I promise we are going on the road together, because this was one of the best
Let's
interviews
do it.
ever. Thank you.
Thanks. Today's episode was a juicy one, and I hope you guys walked away with just as many key takeaways, if not more, my friends, than I did on influencer marketing, authenticity, and all of those things in between. Let me dive right into it. My first key takeaway from today's episode, again, this one's not going to be a surprise, but let's talk about it. So, authenticity and relatability drive influencer marketing success. Point blank. End of story. I shouldn't have to say more, but I've got lots of words. Authenticity is not a new topic on this podcast, and it will always be something that both my guests and myself will probably harp on. Now, authentic storytelling in influencer marketing is so important because today's consumers crave relatable content that really resonates with their daily lives. So people could see through inauthentic content too. If I was an influencer, for example, I'm not, but if I was, and all of a sudden I was promoting cat products, anyone who knows me would see right through that. I'm a dog person. Shout out to my dog posse at home, Poncho and Chewy. And while you're probably thinking, but I don't know you, that is absolutely true. But when it comes to an influencer and or creators community, they do know them. So they're going to see right through it. When you are a genuine with the narratives rather than being traditional with your kind of brand centric approaches, you as a brand can foster deeper connections with your audience. It naturally enhances brand authenticity while increasing your consumer trust and engagement. So, prioritize storytelling that reflects consumers' experiences and values, and it ensures that content feels natural and relevant. And it's so much easier to produce that way. I apologize. I just have I am tongue tied today, no matter how many times I've tried to re record this. So we're just going to leave in all of my isms in here, right? Talk about being authentic. Okay, so key takeaway number 2, integrate to amplify impact. Now, Denise really drove home the point about how important it is to integrate influencer marketing into your overall strategy. It's not just about creating content and leaving it at that. You've got to think of influencers as your amplifiers across different platforms, social media, blogs, podcasts, and even offline events, believe it or not. It's a little like slicing a pie. There are many ways to do that. And you have many ways to distribute your message effectively to reach various different audiences. So when you work with influencers, it's not a one and done deal. You're using their reach and their credibility to extend your brand's visibility across different touch points. This not only boosts the campaign's impact, but also lets you experiment with reaching new audiences. And by treating influencers as partners in your content distribution strategy, you're really building a more cohesive and powerful marketing approach. It's really about making sure that your message resonates consistently across all of those channels, enhancing both your brand's reach and your brand's engagement levels. So, amplify by really stretching out the content that you're getting from those creators and work closely with them. They know how to connect with their audience. That's why they have a community. Now, key takeaway number 3, embracing failure as a path to marketing innovation. Now, I'm obsessed with this statement. It's a mind shift towards failure as a learning opportunity in marketing. Now, I'm advocating for calculated risk taking and an agility in response to evolving marketing dynamics, right? So it's a little bit like, I feel like I just stuffed a bunch of jargon out there. So I'm going to give you an analogy. And no one loves an analogy more than I do, especially on things that I don't really know about. But I do know about marketing and failure. I do know that. And I do know how to pivot from that. So to me, it's like navigating through just kind of these uncharted waters. You have to be willing to take risks, learn from setbacks, and pivot quickly to stay ahead. Now, Denise really emphasized this point. Failure isn't a roadblock, but it's more of a stepping stone towards finding what works. It's about staying agile and responsive to consumer feedback, using each kind of stumble as a chance to refine and improve. Now, think of it, uncharted waters, right? It's a little bit like sailing a ship. You can't predict every wave or gust of wind or storm, but you can adjust your sails to navigate through those challenges. And in marketing, when we embrace failure as part of this journey, we become more resilient and creative. We can test new ideas, pivot strategies, and ultimately discover innovative approaches that really resonate with our audience. This also allows you to pivot quickly and adapt your strategies based on real-time consumer feedback. By staying nimble and open to this kind of experimentation, your brand can discover new growth opportunities and really refine your approach continuously. It's about turning setbacks into strengths and using each experience to evolve and innovate. That's how we stay competitive and ultimately drive long-term success in marketing. Now, I would love to hear your nuggets of insights you walked away with from today's episode. Subscribe and follow on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. A special thank you to my podcast editor, Johnny Ike, and thank you for spending your time with me today. Until next time, may the conversation flow, the laughter linger, and the outlook remain optimistic but grounded in reality. This is Katya, signing off.